Hello, and welcome to part 3 of the research webinar series. Thank you for joining us. Today's presenters are Doug Nelson, JoEllen, and Lily. Hi, Doug. How are you? It's good to hear from you again. It's great to have you back. And what have you been doing lately?
I've been seeing clients like I typically do, being in the clinic a lot and practicing my cello. So it's been a great time. And I'm thrilled to be back for part 3 of our webinar series with NCBTMB. And thank you so much, Donna, for the opportunity to explore this subject.
It's my pleasure. And you've been presidenting the Massage Therapy Foundation.
Yes, yeah, I've been president. I think this is now coming up on my 2nd year as president of the Massage Therapy Foundation, and it's an honor, it's a privilege to do so.
Well, we are very happy to have you. Hi, JoEllen. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Donna. Hey, thanks for having me. So I've been a massage therapist for, I think, over 23 years. I'm also an athletic trainer for maybe 18 years. Currently, I'm a professor at Auburn University, and I'm a researcher, and I run a research center, and our focus is on improved treatments, reduced injuries, and improved performance in tactical athletes. So I spend a lot of time doing research.
Excellent. That's why you're here today, and thank you for joining us. Hi, Lily. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey there, Donna. Yes. Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Lily. This is my first year as a doctorate student, and I am looking forward to discuss a few things I've learned about research that's helped me throughout my research experience.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, too, all of you. My name is Donna Sarvello, and I am the VP of Educational Support for NCBTMB. NCB is a nonprofit. Its mission is to define and advance the highest standards within the massage therapy and bodywork profession through all of its programs. The top program is board certification in therapeutic massage and bodywork. It's the highest credential in the massage therapy profession. And then we have our specialty certificates if people want to take different avenues. We have our approved providers for continuing education that teach CE across the country. And we have our assigned school code to support our certification. For more information about any of our programs, please visit www.ncbtmb.org. Hey, Doug, tell us a little bit about the Massage Therapy Foundation.
Love to do that. So the foundation, like NCBTMB, is a nonprofit organization, and in 2020, this will be our 30th year in existence. And our mission really revolves around advancing the knowledge and practice of massage therapy by 3 things: by supporting scientific research in the field, through education, and also through community service. So let's take each of those 3 parts of the ecosystem and look at them in a little more depth. You know, funding scientific research is at the heart of what we do, and I think right now, concurrently, we are funding 7 different studies in the field. I'm not sure in the history of the foundation we've ever done that many at any one time. So we're contributing to the research literature by funding these studies. But studies are really important, but you also need to disseminate that information and understand it. So in that effort, we have educational resources that are available for people. So for instance, for people in our field, initiatives like this to make research accessible and understandable for the profession is really, really important, not only for ourselves, but also for our healthcare colleagues and also for the public at large. And the third kind of pillar of that is the community service aspect. And that, from the very beginnings of the foundation, there was this idea that part of what a foundation should do is provide the benefits of massage therapy to people who never normally would have access to it. And that's been a pillar for the whole life of the foundation. So we have the research studies, we sponsor conferences. Earlier this year in May in Alexandria, we had the International Massage Therapy Research Conference, which happens every 3 years. That was an amazing, amazing conference, bringing researchers and therapists together in the same room, having that conversation about the current insights in research and also connecting researchers with therapists. It was an amazing experience. So all of these resources are on our website at massagetherapyfoundation.org. I think you'll find it rich and deep with many resources that will support the foundation, that will support the profession.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Doug, tell our listeners what the NCB Massage Therapy Foundation collaboration is all about.
You know, both of our organizations are really deeply committed to advancing the profession and to serving the profession. And where those two missions overlap is really at the thing of research, and research that makes each one of us as practitioners better at what we do, that not only serves the profession, but also serves the public. So in that effort, again, for all of us at the foundation, really, really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with NCBTMB and explore this topic. And this one is the third in our series. The first webinar was really on why research is really important. You know, behind every what should be a clear why. And I think you have to have the why first, because that is the reason behind doing what you do. That first webinar was really all about why research is important, both to our profession and to others. And then there's the why, and then you have to have the what. And that's what the second webinar was about, with Robin Micchio, who did a wonderful job exploring here are different kinds of research and what research really is. And then, so you have the why, you have the what, but you also need a where. And that's what we'll explore today. To find those resources, where do you go and how do you explore them? So I think it's been a wonderful collaboration, and should really, I think therapists will really find it very helpful in their practice.
Perfect. And just so you know, NCB supports the foundation, and it's really important for all of our certificates to understand research.
It is.
Okay.
It's really important.
So all of our listeners can earn one free CE today that we're going to talk about at the end of this webinar. We're not going to give you any information until the end. So sit tight and listen. All right.
Perfect.
Let's move on. So Doug, why research?
This goes back to having a clear why behind what we do. And really that why is that so much so now, in a moment like I've never seen in my entire career, the public, our healthcare colleagues, everyone is looking for efficient and effective complementary approaches to address our national problem of pain. As someone said, in one way, we don't have an opioid crisis, we have a pain crisis. We have a pain management crisis. And I think at every level, we understand that more help needs to be initiated, and everyone is looking for how can we best serve the people who hurt. Those of us in this field for decades, we know that this work has value and that we have something to offer. How do we get a seat at the table? And I think research is one of the ways that happens. I'll give you an example. At I mentioned at the International Research Conference, one of the speakers, Donna, was General Schoonmaker, who is now retired, but he was the Surgeon General for the Armed Forces. To hear this man not just to be open to the idea of massage therapy and utilizing this, but it was way stronger than just being open to it. What he was saying basically is, we need what you as a profession have to offer. Honestly, I've been waiting, this is my 42nd year of practice, I've been waiting 40 years to hear people of that stature say those kinds of things. It was an amazing thing for me personally, just to hear that. And again, you know, yes, I understand that probably a lot of this is driven by the opioid crisis. It's a national concern. It's a national travesty. I mean, some of the data that I've seen in the last couple of years, it's a $500 billion hit to the economy. And those are just numbers. But when you see the kind of personal toll and tragedy that this is, has had on people around the country, it's a really sobering thing. And we in our profession, we know that we have something to offer in response to this. And in terms of data, you know, I want to share something else. A while ago, I spoke at the University of Illinois Medical School, and I'm sure that those medical students, you know, looking at their agenda for the day, saw, oh my goodness, we're having a massage therapist speak to us. I wonder what he's going to talk about, and why would we have this person, right? So what they do, and people in that position, here's what they do. They just go to the literature and they say, well, is there anything, why should we even care, right? Well, when they go to the research literature, it's a little different scenario now than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because that literature is quite vast, actually. Yes, we need more, but there's a lot there right now to support the idea that massage does have something to offer. So when I went into that room, the really cool thing was the conversation was not, is this a viable thing that we should look at? The questions were more like, when should we utilize this? And in what way should we utilize this? You know, Donna, that's a totally different conversation. And again, that's not something that happens because I'm standing at the front of the room, you know, extolling the benefits of this work. Anybody can say anything. The literature made that case for me, so we can have a different conversation. That is a great reason to support research.
Yeah, and it's so exciting. I've only been a massage therapist for 21 years. You've been doubling me. The research for the last 21 years is so much more vast than, you know, it was when I became a massage therapist. I can't even imagine what you've seen.
It's a little different world and a much better world.
Let's continue. Doug, why is massage therapy research important for the practicing massage therapist?
Yeah, you know, and for me, Donna, you know, all the different hats that I wear, I think of my primary thing as, you know, I just, you know, raced here to do the webinar. I raced from the clinic where I just saw people, and when we get done with this, I'm going to race right back to the clinic and see more clients. It's all about clinical applications for this. It's why we should do what we do. It's why we learn and grow as therapists. And in the beginning of my career, really what I wanted to do was I wanted techniques, you know, but techniques are like answers. I wanted more answers. I wanted more answers. Turns out answers won't help you unless they're in response to the right question. I kind of lost on me at the time. I just amassed all these different tools, but I was never really clear about when you use them. Whatever tool I got, that was the new cool thing of the day. Well, if I was a carpenter, I mean, I may have just learned to use a router, but you know, it's really hard to build a house with a router. There are a lot of round corners, but I'm not sure anybody would want to live in it or that it would stand anywhere. So, you know, life was like that for me. And what it took after a while is this idea that yeah, tools are nice, but what I need is a deeper understanding of when, why, and how to apply those tools. And that's really what the research world has given me. And I think it's about giving a deeper understanding, a deeper insight, because in the end, I still have to make choices. I still have all those tools and more tools than ever now, but I have to make choices about when to use them. And that's what the research world can give me. The other thing I would say is that if somebody listening to this webinar right now is having amazing success treating some particular condition, like for instance, I'll just pick, Parkinson's. You know, if they are having amazing success, that is so wonderful for them. It is so wonderful for their clients, but it doesn't help me, right? Only if you write that up, for instance, in a case report, will I be able to learn from you? Unless I know that therapist personally, I would have no access to that information that could make a difference in the lives of people who might come to my office. So research in many ways, whether it's formalized in terms of a big, randomized control study, or whether it's a case report, all these things are ways of just sharing knowledge across our profession so that we create, in essence, a learning community where we're all growing and learning together. That also binds us as a profession, and that's a really, really good thing. So, and the last thing I would say is I'm not a researcher, but the more I've made myself literate in research, I think I know it has changed the way I practice, because I actually practice like a little researcher, and it's made me question, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What do I expect to happen? Actually employing that kind of strategy in my own practice, I know has really increased my outcomes. That in some ways may be the most valuable thing of all, and making me question my own actions. Turns out questioning yourself is a really good thing.
Yeah, and if we wouldn't have begun questioning ourselves, we'd still believe things like massage is a contraindication for a pregnant woman in her first trimester.
Right.
I mean, yeah, answering these questions, asking these questions have led us to knowledge. Yeah,
that's right. And what, why am I doing what I'm doing? And how do I know what I know? Do I know that because somebody told me that? Or like, how do I know truly what I know? Turns out they're just questioning that will open the door to many good things.
Excellent. All right. JoEllen, what is research?
That's a great question. Simply put, research is just a process, but it's a never-ending process. It's a systematic inquiry to describe, explain, and predict what we see and experience in the world.
Can you continue to explain the scientific method to our listeners?
Sure. So the scientific method is just that systematic process I just mentioned. So we've developed the scientific method through centuries of exploration and investigation. We've come up with a well-tested process that really helps us discover how things function. So think centuries ago, many of the things we take for granted now, we had no clue how they worked. As we go through the steps of the scientific method, we're following the same process as Leonardo da Vinci and Marie Curie did when they made their world-changing discoveries. So this process, as you can see on this image, starts with questions. And as I tell my students, like Lily, asking the right question is the most difficult and the most important part. And when we start a project, a lot of times we'll spend days at my whiteboard really developing that question. It must be very specific. And oftentimes we break down difficult processes or questions into a series of smaller questions. Then as we answer each one, we add to the knowledge base and we can begin to start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Then next, we find out everything we can about what is already known. This background research, or sometimes you call it a lit review, includes a review of the literature, which really is anything published in this area. And here we're talking about scholarly, peer-reviewed publications. We don't want to repeat the work or make mistakes others have made. We don't have the time or money for that. This is why you hear us say, we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. Everything we do is built on prior work. It's also interesting why it can take a long time to fix a misconception. And it's so important that all the work is thoroughly vetted, peer-reviewed, and assessed by a research community before it's accepted and published. Once you get a wrong idea out there, it's really, really hard to bring that back and get people back on the right track. So next, we're going to build our hypothesis, and that's just a fancy word for an educated guess. It's based on what we learned in our literature search. And then we need to test that hypothesis. So we're going to build an experiment or different experiments to try to see if our educated guess is correct. We're going to observe, collect data, analyze the results, and then we decide if those results support our hypothesis or they disagree with it. Now, either is okay. We don't try to prove a hypothesis. We want to test it. What we're looking for is finding truth. All findings teach us something. Oftentimes, we learn more when we get unexpected results, and I actually love that. Those can be the coolest findings. So in the end, finally, we're going to develop our conclusions on what occurred and our best guess as to why. And then we just start the whole process over again with a new or a modified question. So this scientific process allows us to add to our knowledge base in a way that provides information we can really trust. And as a practitioner, you can then read through this literature and decide when we know enough, when the time is right, to make changes in your practice based on this new knowledge.
And you know, Jo, as a practitioner, I mean, I look at this and I look at this process, and really it's the same thing that every one of us every day in the clinic does when we see a client. If I just look at the little thing here, state the problem. So the client comes in and says, you know, if I do forward flexion, you know, they're bringing their arm out in front of them, it hurts. But you know what's really weird is if I bend my elbow, it doesn't hurt as much as if I extend my elbow. So there's the problem. And then I can formulate a hypothesis, which is, gosh, that would seem to implicate perhaps the long head of the bicep more than anything else. I wonder if that would be true. And then in the scientific world, you as a researcher might design an experiment. You know, we in the clinic would call that a treatment, right? A treatment protocol. And so we do the work and we thoroughly treat this area, and then you know the data collection and data analysis is simply, okay, after all that lovely and wonderful work, now what? And perhaps the client stands up and says, actually that didn't help at all, right? So then we draw a conclusion like, well, was I doing the wrong work in the right place, or was that just incorrect from the beginning, and what else would explain this? But everything that happens, we learn from all of that. We learn from our successes, but mostly we learn from our failures, right? And what else would be involved in that action? And that develops our plan B and our plan C and our plan D. And that just builds the background knowledge of every therapist. So the next person who comes in with something similar, if A doesn't work, we got a lot more where that came from. So the scientific method is something that those of us in the clinic do every day. You've just given a wonderful form and name to something.
You're absolutely right, Doug. And it's all about critical thinking. And it's all about trying to go back and try to figure out the origin. And we all get very frustrated when it's that client we just can't figure out. But when we do figure out, it's very cool. We jump up and down, and then we've learned so much that way. It's always that one client that keeps us up at night, isn't it?
That's right, and those are the ones we learn the most from and grow as therapists, because if somebody comes in, presents with a problem, and you do whatever and it helps them, you've learned really nothing. You've only confirmed something. It's the struggle that is rich in the learning opportunity. So, and I'm sure that happens in science as well.
It does, and I teach my doc students, and some of them have a real hard time with this. Science is all about failure. We succeed very, very tiny, small percent of the time. You have to be okay with failure, or you're never going to learn anything.
That's right. Same thing in the clinic. It's a struggle until you find the answer. So, but you have to, the secret's in the questioning.
So, talking about questioning, that's exactly what I tell my students to do. They have to question everything. Even if it's something that I tell them, I want them to know why we do things the way they do. And if the answer is just because you told me to do it, then that might not be right. I want them to ask, is there a better way? I don't want them to just think outside the box. I want them to get rid of the box altogether. But they must always base their work on scientific knowledge. And I think we as therapists, we've had this in the past. We do it because that's the way we were taught. That's the way our teachers were taught. Well, hopefully we're past that. It's not a good answer. And what we do has to change as that knowledge base grows. The important thing as a therapist or any healthcare provider is we don't have to know all the answers. Research helps us build our knowledge base and question what we think is fact. It helps us improve our skills, but most importantly, improve our care. We don't have to have all the answers, but we do need to know how to find the answers if they exist. And that's what we're going to talk about throughout this webinar today. The practitioners I trust most, whether they're massage therapists, athletic trainers, or physicians, are the ones willing to say, you know, I don't know, but let me go find out.
And, you know, Joe, as I've been, you know, connected with the medical school here, talking with their professors, this is something that, you know, med school education really faces. There's just more and more stuff, you know, that these medical school students need to know. It's impossible at some point to just have all that in your head. You can't do a data dump in that. So what they are focusing on, and I think this is true across the field, is just even for physicians, you don't have to know everything. You do have to know how to explore it, how to learn, where to look it up, where to go to find answers, because there will be new challenges 10 years from now that in your education now we didn't even know about. It's the process that's more important than having an answer.
You're absolutely right, and the ability to think. I tell my students when they come in the first year of their doc program, what we teach them in class is going to be out of date by the time they graduate 4 or so years later. We have to teach them how to think, how to find the answers, and keep up and find that new information.
Lovely.
All right, JoEllen, can research be used to improve client care and how?
You know, absolutely, and that's kind of why we're all here, right? Massage has been used to improve health for thousands of years. Much of what we do is based on this tradition. Now, we want to make sure that when new knowledge is discovered, we incorporate that into our patient care. This process of learning and improving is how we provide the best care to our patients and clients. Now, it's important to note that all knowledge is not created equal. Likely you've heard the terms evidence-based or evidence-informed practice, especially lately. This is when we as practitioners use the research evidence available to help us develop the best client care. We want to combine our experience with this research evidence. When we do, our patients then receive the best care that we have to offer.
So Lily, come join us. Are there different types of research?
Absolutely. And as a new student of research, the first thing I learned was that there's a research hierarchy. You may have seen a diagram like this before. It's the research pyramid. The pyramid helps us understand levels of evidence, different levels of research that provide differing qualities of information. All are important to build our research knowledge, but it's important to understand how they differ. The higher up the pyramid you go, the more reliable the knowledge is. I'll briefly explain each one. At the bottom are expert opinions, observational and anecdotal evidence, and case studies. Case studies are typically done only on one or a few people, known as a case series. They provide a basis of information and can be a good place to start. Now, let's move further up the pyramid. As you'll see, you'll find different types of studies. Cohort studies observe a large number of individuals over a long period of time. They are often used to calculate risk, such as the risk of developing low back pain if you're a long-haul trucker. They don't tell us why the low back pain developed, only the risk. You may have heard of randomized controlled trials. These are considered the gold standard of research because the research design helps eliminate researcher bias. So they'll include a control group and a random assignment into the control and intervention group. Now, non-randomized trials are just lacking the random assignment to groups, which again helps control with bias. Sometimes you just can't randomize. For example, if you're doing a study on ankle sprains, those that are injured would be in the sprain group, and the control group would be non-injured. The addition of a control group helps us to make sure that the effects we find in the study are really from the intervention and not from another factor, such as normal changes over time. Highest up on the pyramid in the green are evidence-based practice guidelines and systematic reviews or meta-analysis. Evidence-based practice guidelines are developed to assist the practitioner and patient decisions about treatments for specific clinical circumstances. Systematic reviews and meta-analyses are works that bring together all the information in the given area and are reviewed by experts in that area. They are the highest sources of evidence that we have. So it is important to mention that the sources of information are really important. Not everything out there is quality work. So we're going to dive in and take a look at a few of these different types of evidence and how we can use them in our practice.
But first, JoEllen, what sources are reliable and how can we get started with this?
That's a great question. So to get started, let's just start with a new client. So let's say a new client came into your office. During the intake history, she mentions that she's looking for relief for pain in her hands. And upon talking to her, you find out she has rheumatoid arthritis. And she wants to know if you and massage can help her with this pain. So you've never worked with rheumatoid arthritis before. You tell her you'd be happy to try. You set up an appointment for the following week. So now you need to get to work, expanding your knowledge in this area. So the question is, can you help her and where do you start? Where would you go first? I generally first go to the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, or IJTMB. It's a great place to start for several reasons. First, it's Massage Therapy Foundation's journal, so of course I'm going to start there. It has free access, which is really important. It means if you're not at a university, a lot of times you can't access these journal articles without paying for them. So it's all free access and anybody can access the full article. It has a lot of great information. And let's look at the journal website. Here's the journal website. Here you can see home is about. You can find information if you ever want to write for the journal. You can browse current or the archives, announcements, donate, and you can even subscribe so the new issue pops into your email. Here's the current issues, some information and some editorials. And up here, you can do a search. So here, if we want to research massage and rheumatoid arthritis, I've already typed it in, and we can search on that. And here's a list of anything from this journal and its archives that talks about massage and rheumatoid arthritis. So I think I saw, if we go up here, yes, here's a case report. So if you remember, Lily mentioned at the bottom of the pyramids for case studies or case reports. So we can click on that, and the abstract pops up, and we can take a big look at the abstract. Now, with IJTMB, you can click right here and get a full PDF of the article. You can download that, save it, read it later if you want. In these articles, in this case, this case report, there's a lot of great information here. The introduction is going to have a lot of information about rheumatoid arthritis, what it is. You don't have to go look that stuff up yourself. Find a great case report that introduces you to it. And you know it's been peer reviewed and that information has been checked out. It's not like just Googling something and wondering if the information is correct. You go through, you can find out the purpose of the case report, the methods that were used, and most of these great studies have the examination and, importantly, the intervention itself. What massage strokes were used? What worked? What didn't work? You can get the results, some of their graphs and charts, a great discussion, and then, importantly, all these nice references down here if you want to dig more into this area. So let's dig into this abstract. This is the abstract that we found. Up here you can see purpose. It's a case report that tells you where it is on that research pyramid hierarchy. Then of course the first thing as a clinician I look at, I want to see the results. Negative and positive results should always be reported. So down here we see the patient improved in pain, fatigue, range of motion, all after a series of 6 sessions. And that result, the benefits, lasted 5 weeks, which that would really excite me. So I can go back into this, read what strokes they used, and know that somebody found the benefit. Again, this is a case series or individual case reports near the bottom of the pyramid. So Lily, as a new researcher, what would you do next?
So for me, I like Google Scholar. It's an easy-to-use database that is free for everyone. I also use Web of Science and PubMed here at school. However, not everyone has access to those databases. With Google Scholar, I'm often surprised on what I can find, and you can find studies from all levels of research on the pyramid. I'd like to distinguish the difference between Google Scholar and Google. Google Scholar will focus on scholarly literature available on the internet, publications that are based on research, whereas Google retrieves all resources regardless of the online source. Simple Google searches will find results that are not scholarly and not backed up by any evidence. And no matter where you find your information, I can't reiterate this enough, you always want to check to see where the source is coming from and dig a bit deeper to find the original source of that information. And when I begin my research, I like to use operators during my investigation. These are words like and, or, not. This is going to help me narrow down my search. There are some great videos on how to search Google and how to use search modifiers. We've added the links in this PowerPoint, so we hope that you find these helpful, or you could just Google how to use operators. But we are going to go and demonstrate how Google Scholar works. So we'll go into a web browser and search for Google Scholar. So I've already typed in rheumatoid arthritis and massage therapy, and notice I used the operator and. Again, we have a list of articles, and we found this article on rheumatoid arthritis. Now, if you can, you'll want to download the PDF and read the full paper. It will tell you more about methods and techniques used, and you can incorporate them into your treatment with your new client. The full paper shows you step-by-step process of the study and the results. And as we're scrolling down, you can see in box 1 the methods of massage strokes that were done. Moving further down, you'll see a great list of references at the end if you want to go dig a little deeper. And remember, as Dr. Sefton said, references are a great way to identify other information that could be potentially beneficial to answer your question. And you could just come to the references and download the PDF if it's accessible to you. So let's look back, and you'll note that this study is bigger than a single case study. It's with 42 subjects. It was a 4-week-long period, and they found moderate pressure in the massage group had less pain, greater grip strength, and greater range of motion in their wrists. So looking at these results can help you plan your treatment with your new patient. So we're now looking back at the research pyramid. This new study that we just found is up at level 3, a randomized controlled trial, So this is a higher level of evidence, and we can put more trust in its findings than the case study we've read. It's really important to remember that no one study should tell us what we should do in our practice. We want to learn all we can from the evidence and make informed decisions.
So Lily, is there better evidence than that?
Yes, definitely. So let's look to see. If we go to Google Scholar and search for rheumatoid arthritis, massage therapy, and use the operator and systemic review, we find this list. And again, you see a full archive of different papers and articles, but we'll click on the one that contains all of our research keywords. And again, you may not be able to fully access all of these articles, but at least you can read the abstracts to learn a little bit more about it. So we found this systematic review, and recall that a systematic review is on the top of the pyramid. It's important to mention that here they say that they cannot recommend or recommend against massage for rheumatoid arthritis. What that means is that so far, there's not enough evidence either way. It doesn't mean massage is harmful for rheumatoid arthritis, just that there's a lot left to learn in order to meet the scientific standard to be recommended. So I'm going to summarize what we found. We found 3 resources to help us with our new client. One was a case study that got us started on how we might treat this patient and includes specific techniques used in the massage session. Next, we found a randomized controlled trial that suggested the importance of the type and amount of pressure used during treatment. Lastly, we found a systematic review of the research, and that's at the top of the pyramid.
Lily, that was really great. Thanks for walking us through that. So as a therapist, what have we learned about rheumatoid arthritis for our new client? Well, first, important to remember, we don't have all the answers. It's okay. We do need to know how to find them. We found several examples that massage therapy has been used with RA with positive outcomes. Those positive outcomes lasted for 5 weeks in that case study. Remember, that was a case study, bottom pyramid, 1 person, but still that gives me hope. The larger randomized study, further up the pyramid, also found positive results. The systematic review found no evidence of problems, so I don't have anything in my head that I'm worried about that I might harm my client. Each of these studies provided examples of techniques that might be used for treatment, and I'm going to use that information to build my treatment plan for my new client. So now I can go back. I have the information that I need, techniques that I might want to avoid. All of this, I'm going to add to my own experience. I'm not going to throw my experience out the window. I'm going to add it, and I'm also going to work with my client, their response to the treatment, because not everybody responds the same. And together, that's going to give me the best possible avenue of care for my patient.
JoEllen, I do want to make one point here and go back one slide, that even though there isn't a huge boom of evidence and the excitement that people say, you know, we did research on this, it should prove this exact information and blah, 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 that massage helps RA people, and the evidence moves slowly. It's not a fast-paced thing. Research moves slowly, and so we have to wait for the evidence. Any change is a great change to know.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Donna, and I want to jump on one comment you made. We say over and over and over again, research doesn't prove anything. What we bring together is years and years of work, and we develop theories. But one study doesn't improve anything. So I think that's really important. And the other thing I kind of want to mention here, since you brought it up, is that there's statistical differences and there's clinical differences. So in research, you'll see that had a statistical effect. And we're actually arguing in research right now if that's a good idea. But as clinicians, what was the clinical effect? Was it clinically significant? Now, if I used massage on the neck and I found a 3 degrees increase in my cervical range of motion, that may not be statistically significant depending on the study and how it was set up, but that might make a huge difference in my patient's life, and I would call that clinically significant. So your points are really well made.
Thank you, and thank you for clarifying for the listeners.
And all of this leads back to kind of what I had said earlier about, the scientific underpinnings, that deep root system that is the buoying force when the winds of being in the office and struggling with trying to help people every day, that is the root system, and that develops your tools in that way. But you still have to make choices. You can have an array of tools in front of you, but the wisdom, the art, is really in the choosing of those tools. And so, this profession, like so many others, is actually the science of it and the art of it. But where those intersect, just like this drawing that I really, really like, is the intersection of art and science is a sense of wonder about the world. And I think those of us who've been in this field for decades, you do have an absolute sense of wonder about this field, the power of touch, and the way it affects people's lives. So a little while ago, I saw just a lovely quote: "The bigger the island of knowledge, the longer the shoreline of wonder." And so I guess we are all inviting everyone to walk that shoreline with us. And it's a wonderful journey.
All right, Doug, and can you tell the massage therapist the best place to go for research and information?
Donna, it just makes sense that the first place you should think about is our own journal, the journal of and by our own profession, the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork. Because if you wanted to know something about massage and fill in the blank, whatever condition or application, it would be nice to know that massage therapists actually did the work. And I know that sounds like, well, duh, but honestly, 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't really true. It was other professions doing massage, and then it was recorded as massage did or did not help. Does that really reflect what the rest of us do in clinical practice? I don't think so. So we, in our field, our own journal, we want to make sure that those articles really accurately reflect clinical applications. And so I think that's a really important aspect. The thing that Joe mentioned earlier is that it's an open access journal. And again, you're not going to click on an article that you find really interesting and then find you have to pay money to actually do that. The foundation, and again, through people's donations to the foundation, we have already paid those fees. So that, yes, it's great that for you can read that full text article, but honestly, some nurse who's sitting anywhere around the world who, does a search on massage and rheumatoid arthritis, very likely will end up at our journal, as she or he should. And any that person sitting in their family room at home, and they're struggling with their rheumatoid arthritis, and they're just doing the same kind of looking through the internet, it's likely that they will end up in our journal. And if they wish, they can read those full text articles. This is, again, brought to you by the Massage Therapy Foundation, and now our new partners at the Registered Massage Therapists Association of British Columbia, who are, I think for the last 2 or 3 years, have been partnering with us on bringing this journal to the massage therapy profession. It's a wonderful service. Again, it's peer-reviewed. There's a high standard for anything that gets published in there, and it's PubMed indexed, which is, again, all those, Lily mentioned them earlier, the different databases that healthcare providers and researchers and will look at. This is indexed in those things. So that's really, really important.
And Doug, all of the links and all of the information that you have been stated in this webinar, they're all listed on Massage Therapy Foundation's website, correct?
That is correct. Great way. That's kind of the portal. That's the gateway to access all of these things as well. Or you can go directly to the journal website.
Okay, perfect.
You know, realistically though, Donna, not everybody wants to read like a full case report. Maybe they don't have the desire, maybe they don't have the time. But visual abstracts are a really, really cool way to display that same information, but in the kind of Cliff Notes version. So I'm looking at the screen here and I see massage therapy and Parkinson's, a case report. So we actually, in my office, in our waiting room, we have these visual abstracts. You know, they're 3 up on a page, so you can put them on a, you know, what do you call those, a rack display or something, kind of where a brochure size would be. So we print them and put them out there. So, you know, when I'm kind of walking through a waiting room, I'll notice people are reading this thing. You know, maybe that's not completely applicable to them, Donna, but what they're realizing is that this office this profession has deep underpinnings that they probably really didn't realize. That's a good thing. That, you know, that builds that kind of sense of trust and also respect for the work that we have put in and the self-reflection and self-questioning that we as a profession have done. Not only that, but, you know, maybe they pick up this one on massage and Parkinson's. Well, they don't have Parkinson's, but it's likely that in their social web, you know, that they might know 2 or 3 people who are struggling with Parkinson's disease. I can certainly imagine, you know, our client leaving the office and having a conversation later with that person going, you know what, who would have thunk it? But maybe you should consider massage therapy as a way to help you manage your Parkinson's disease. And here's why I think that. What a great thing. And that's what visual abstracts can do. Make it accessible and understandable. And, you know, talking about accessibility, kind of a step up from the visual abstract is a poster. And those of you who attended any of the large conferences, like our research conference last May, you'll see a whole poster session where, you know, these like 4 foot by 6 foot massive things are posted up there, and you get to talk to the person who did it, and it's really fun, and you get to read these things. Well, it's all great if you were there, but if you couldn't be there, well, then you kind of lost out. Well, in the last year or two, what we've done is gone back and actually taken all of those, the authors who created these posters, which, by the way, are therapists like you and I, in most cases. What we've done is actually put those on just a PDF that you can print out on an 8.5 by 11, or just download it and save it and explore it on your, you know, phone or your tablet or your laptop, and learn from these things. It's a Cliff Notes version, in a way, of a research study or a case report. That here's the problem, here's what we did, here's why it was interesting, here's what happened, and here's what that means. It's a wonderful way that in a visual abstract you can read in, you know, 90 seconds. This, you know, might take you 5 to 7 minutes, but there's a wealth of information inside these posters. They're all accessible to you now, and they're all at the massage therapy on the link that you have on the screen. So make sure that you avail yourself to anything you find interesting.
Excellent. Well, this was a fabulous webinar. I enjoyed all of you. But now, let's give away the secret. How can our viewers earn 1 free CE for today?
Okay, there it is. Okay, so, yep, so, all right. Okay, so maybe the music career, now you can see why that never happened. So, you know, to earn continuation credit, if you just go to this link, you will have access to the quiz that, again, you need to score over 70%. But if you didn't do it the first time, take it again, because what we really care about is you understanding and being able to utilize the information. Also, if you're watching this webinar live, you will get an email that has that link on it. So don't panic about that. You're going to get an email that has the link as well. And should you have missed the first 2 webinars, you have a chance to do it again. So you can watch the videos of the first webinar on the why research, or the second one on the what of research, and take those quizzes, and hey, do all three of those, and you've got 3 C's, and you know, those could probably be applied for board certification, do you think?
Yes, they can be applied to board certification for all of our certificates. And I just want to say that if you don't pass the exam the first time, we are an interesting group. Watch us again. You can watch us 3 times if you'd like.
Absolutely.
So,
just to hear your laugh 3 times would be great. I mean, I'm in for that.
So, Doug, when's the next webinar and what's it about?
You know, I would love to see something in February, March of 2020. I think there have been a lot of questions and, you know, a lot of wonderings about case reports. I could see a 2-part series, Donna, on case reports, both just exploring them and, you know, the rich resources that you can find in case reports. I think in a lot of ways they're overlooked and underrated in terms of sources of clinical information and ways to learn from each other, as I said earlier, to create that clinical learning community. And I think there are a couple aspects that we could take. So I could see a 2-part series on case reports, but I would look for, we'll send you out an email, or either email or, you know, some sort of social media post, but look for, I'd say, probably February, March of 2020 for the first one.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited about the entire pyramid now that it's been explained. Can we do a couple more on all of the areas?
I think we can make that happen.
Yeah. But make
really
us talk about research, Donna.
Oh, yeah, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Give
yeah,
Joe a
and you're
chance
not
to
going
do
to escape me.
Yeah.
We're going to keep you on doing these webinars for the next 5 years.
I'm good.
All right.
That'd be fun.
So if you have any questions and you want to connect with us, for NCBTMB, you can connect to our website at www.ncbtmb or call our 1-800 number. And we also take info emails at info@ncbtmb.org. And Doug, what is the massage therapy information? Massage Therapy Foundation information.
Yep, massagetherapyfoundation.org. So start there, great portal for all of these resources that we mentioned. The journal, the kind of the direct access to the journal is JTMB.org. And again, as I think Lily pointed out, or Joe, definitely hit the subscribe button, because then if there's new things that come up, you don't have to remember to go look for it. You'll just get a little push email to remind you. And any comments, questions, definitely go to info@massagetherapyfoundation.org. We're here to serve you. We're here to serve the profession.
Well, thank you all for joining me. This was a great webinar. I really appreciate all of the work you do, and I look forward to hearing from all of you in the future.
Thanks for having us. It's been really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for the opportunity to explore this. And then again, on behalf of the foundation, thank you to NCBTMB for all the work that you do, and for all the therapists listening out there. Thank you for making a difference in the world. Thank you very much.